Is this the one that was in the McDonald's the night that it happened, or was this a later one?
Yes, that was the one that happened that night.
So, welcome to the Unstuck Career Podcast with your host, Ken Williams. Each week, we move along your path to possibility so you can finally have the life you want. Let's learn how to deal with people you never wanted to be friends with together so you can become unstuck and unstoppable in your career and life. Welcome back to another episode of the Unstuck Career Podcast. I am here again with a guest, and this time it's somebody I found on TikTok, which is super fun. This is Parker Kane, and you may not have met Parker, but there's a really good chance that you've heard Parker. Parker went crazy viral a few years ago. How long ago was that, by the way?
2015,
15.
2016.
So 10 years ago, beatboxing in a McDonald's in a tiny little town, college town of Brecksburg, Idaho. And that's exploded into some really interesting things. And so when we connected on TikTok, he was very kind and asked me to be on his podcast. And I was very hopeful that he'd be on mine. So here he is. Welcome, Parker.
Here I am. And yeah, thanks for being on my show and thanks for having me on this one. I'm really excited.
This is going to be fun. So first of all, we'll talk about your podcast as well, but give us a little pitch for your podcast. What do you talk about, and who is it for?
Yeah, so my podcast is called Upbeat with Parker Kane. And initially, that name came because of the whole beatboxing thing, but as we'll get into, I'm sure a lot of my journey has been going from the typical beatboxing, like cool performing route into motivational and personal development and public speaking, coaching, those kinds of things, helping creative entrepreneurs figure out, how to navigate the rough waters of depression and anxiety and ADHD and all those things that come up when you are running your creative pursuits, your business, whatever it is. So that's what we get into on the podcast a lot. It's a businessy, but we take a real mental wellness approach and look at what these entrepreneurs are going through in their heads.
Yeah. It is not easy. And one of the things that I love about your story, you kind of hinted at it, but things can change in a positive way. We assume a lot of times the negative, but things can change in a positive way in an instant. And we don't always assume that that's part of the possibility that exists. So tell the story, if you don't mind. I'm sure you've told it once or twice before, but talk about where you were from a just kind of a maybe a mental health standpoint or a love of life standpoint the night that you ended up going to McDonald's.
Thank you for that setup. Yeah, just to catch everyone up before that point too, I started beatboxing when I was 7 years old, and I had lived kind of this double life of like wanting to beatbox and have that be my career, and I was definitely more of a creative. But then fighting against, the traditional recommendations of like go to school, go to college, become something more legit. In my family, they were encouraging me to become a nurse or a nurse anesthetist is kind of the vision I created. So I lived like this double life of performing beatboxing all the time, booking my own spots at like these county fairs, state fairs, and then also being a lifeguard and a certified nursing assistant and going to school for phlebotomy and like I was living both paths.
Yeah.
And I think over time that became very, very strenuous on me. And when I was in college, I spent a solid 2 years trying so hard to like have good grades and get into the nursing program and all that. And I was just bombing. Like I was trying my hardest, trying my best, and I could not get the grades that I was hoping for. And at that point, for many years, for at least 3 or 4 years, beatboxing was kind of on the back burner, and I wasn't living both lives anymore. I kind of jumped both feet into the go to college route,
Hmm.
and I just got really overwhelmed. Uh, Felt not good enough all the time, and hindsight, everything's clearer in hindsight. Now I can look back and realize, well, all the things I loved to do, I wasn't doing those things.
Yeah.
So,
Were you encouraged at any point to give up on the beatboxing and to focus on something more legit or more um, stable, more something safer?
yes. Yeah. And it wasn't like a direct, like, someone in my life was like, hey, Parker, give up on this. But it was downplayed a lot of the time. Like, that's a really cool thing you do, man, but it's not like where the money is. Or that's a really cool thing you do, but you're never going to be able to, like, do that full time. And so it was always downplayed. And yeah, the more traditional paths were encouraged a lot more. So to get to your question on where I was that night, just a perfect storm. Everything was coming together. I was having issues with friends, family, not having enough money, not getting good grades. Like just everything was too overwhelming for me. And I felt really, really down in the dumps. And for months, I had been kind of silently struggling, and people didn't know. Like
Mhm.
none of my friends, who were amazing friends, none of them would have said like, "Oh, Parker's depressed." But I was definitely depressed and anxiety ridden, and kind of freaking out and isolating a lot. And on one night, it was October 4th, 2015. I was home alone, just me and my dog. In my apartment complex, which there were six of us that lived there. So five of my roommates were all gone hanging out, and a lot of them had girlfriends and stuff. I didn't, which played a part. But I was depressed, and I was literally laying on my bedroom floor crying, and for the first time ever, started to have more of those suicidal ideations and thinking about what's the point of any of this.
Mhm.
And it really wasn't a feeling of not wanting to be here anymore. It was more like I felt like I wasn't meant to be here anymore.
Mhm.
And like I had exhausted all my efforts. It's out of my hands. And I believe in God. And in that moment, I believe God intervened and kind of took the wheel of my thoughts and
Mhm.
started steering me in a more positive direction. Because it turned into all those negative thoughts kind of turned into a prayer.
Mhm.
And the prayer was, you never know what's around the corner. Like, I know that all these bad things have happened, but there could be good things ahead. Um, you are meant to be here. It's just all these more positive thoughts of encouragement started coming, but I know it wasn't God.
You froze for a
Um,
second. So that last sentence we missed, at least I missed. You were frozen.
oh, sorry about that. What was the last thing?
That your thoughts, those thoughts that you felt God was leading you, and that it kind of turned into a prayer.
Okay. Yeah. So it did turn into a prayer. And I think, I was just steered in a direction of more positive thinking, at least encouraging me to stay and not think about that, and that I am meant to be here and I
Mhm.
just can't see what's around the corner. So I was in tears. I kind of ended my prayer, and two things happened. I rolled over on my side and I saw my dog, Jessie, who had passed away a couple of years ago. But when I saw her, I just wept and was like, well, I can't leave you.
Mhm.
Like I love you. You're my favorite dog in the world. Who's gonna feed you? I'm staying for you. And then my friend Sean, my best friend Sean, called me in that moment and invited me to go with him and some other friends to McDonald's for a late night McDonald's run. And it was literally like 11 or 11:30 at night, kind of late.
Mhm.
Normally, I would have said absolutely not, because I had been depressed. I'd been isolating. And in this particular moment, I had just been bawling my eyes out and praying and feeling like garbage. So normally I would have said no, but something in me was just like, no, this time you have to say yes. You
Mm,
have to go with them. So I said yes, and I got ready, and they swung by, picked me up in the car. We drove to McDonald's. And if you've been to a college town McDonald's, especially if it's a small town like where I was, it is packed. It's like the only place to go.
right. Nothing else is open at that hour.
Right. So it was busy. There's tons of people, and it was so fun hanging out with my friends. And this is one really big important rule I've learned about depression and stuff. It's so important to interact and not isolate.
Mm,
Because that interaction alone, just me being with all those people who were kind and laughing and encouraging, that boosted me way more than I could have boosted myself being just at home being sad. So,
right.
so much more important to interact. But then, yeah, they encouraged me. They knew that I could beatbox, and they encouraged me to beatbox in front of everybody there. And I literally had some friends that stood up and were like, "Hey, everybody, listen, like Parker's gonna do this thing." And they got everybody focused on me. And I have kind of this party trick, I guess, where I beatbox with a McDonald's cup. And they handed me my cup, and I stood up and I beatboxed in front of everybody that was there. The whole place went quiet. Everybody pulled out their phones and started recording it, including my friends. And it was a surreal moment. And looking back, it's almost more special now, looking back, seeing that that was such a pivotal moment in my life. But my friend Sean showed me the video that he got, and he said, "Hey, man, do you want this? Do you want to post this clip?" And I said, "Absolutely not. It is garbage. I look ugly. I don't like that angle. I could have done way better. So no, I don't want it." And he was like, "All right, well, can I post it?" And I was like, "Go for it, dude. I don't care." It's my analytical brain too in that moment was just like, it's late at night. It's my friend Sean. He's got a couple hundred followers on Facebook, all his friends and family. Like, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
Turns out, by the next morning, it had 56,000 views. By the end of that day, it had a million views. By the end of that week, it was over 10 million views. And 2 years later, into 2017, across platform, it had crossed 1 billion streams.
Wow.
And also with the help of McDonald's, because I ended up doing like an official McDonald's commercial with them and everything. But that moment was the shift of everything. And you know when I saw the views climbing, and I want to be clear that there's so much more out there than just views. So it's not
Sure.
because of the views that I was getting chills and stuff. But when I saw the views climbing, I felt confirmation from God, like
Mm,
I am supposed to be here.
right.
Like, see, last night you were doubting. Today you have a million views.
Yeah.
So you never know what's around the corner.
Now I saw you had a cup. I don't know if that was in preparation for this question, but give us a sample. Give us a sample of your party trick.
Yeah. So, well, beatboxing, I could do the cup one, and then I can do some more if you want. But so I have a McDonald's cup here. Might be kind of squeaky,
Super,
but
super important.
right. So when you blow over the top, it's like, and when beatboxing happens, air comes out. So
For some reason, it's not audio's not picking up.
it didn't pick up.
It didn't pick up. So maybe it's Parker was saying
I
he's
can
the
I can
microphone
send you
wasn't
the
working.
video or something.
Yeah. Well, and maybe what I'll do is while you're talking about I'll pull up a version of it. And so,
Yeah.
but go ahead and talk about some of the things. Talk about how McDonald's approached you and what that kind of turned into.
Yeah. So that video took off and a couple things happened. Number one, at the time also I had a YouTube channel where I was posting cover videos with my sister and with my friends. And I was thinking like, oh, now my YouTube channel is gonna blow up. Now I can do music full time and beatboxing covers. And uh, that is not what happened at all. My YouTube pretty much stayed the same. And to my surprise, and again, I think this is God's hand in my life. It's not, I really can't predict how any of this was going to happen. But instead, what happened is I started getting all these email inquiries to um, be invited to speak at events
Hmm.
and perform beatboxing at events. And so that was one thing that started happening. And then I started getting calls from TV shows and talent managers and recruiters. America's Got Talent was trying to recruit me. I wasn't a contestant, but I did film with like some commercials with them. Um, Ridiculousness, the Steve Harvey show, and McDonald's was one of the first ones to jump on that. And that phone call was really funny. I think the guy's name is Charlie. He was really high up with McDonald's. Can't remember what his job was, but he said, before we get too into the weeds, I just want to say thank you for the free commercial. And he's like, because we didn't pay you for that, and you know, our Coke sales are through the roof. So
Oh,
thank you.
that's amazing.
Because yeah, that was lots and lots of views and impressions for them. So they had, you know, kids coming into McDonald's and trying to beatbox with with their cups. Anyway,
Yeah, that's
he's like
crazy.
he's like, we want to make it right and do like an actual commercial with you if you're interested. And they had me come out to LA for a few days, City of Industry, and we recorded just the short 15-second ad that they played across streaming platforms like Hulu and YouTube TV and YouTube videos, things like that.
Cool. I'm going to share for the people who are watching this on video. You should be able to see the. Is this the one that was in the McDonald's the night that it happened, or was this a later one?
Yes, that was the one that happened that night.
So so that the thing that is fascinating to me about the story so far is that a thing that you love, a thing that you have just been drawn to since age 7. Now you're in college, a thing that you've been told by people in a variety of ways that this was a waste of time. It's not valuable. You shouldn't pursue it. It's not something that's going to benefit you in any way. Now has thrown opportunities at you that how could you even imagine the the speeches, the commercials? I know you did a TEDx talk in was it Idaho Falls?
Yeah.
So all these opportunities that came because of something that you love to do, something that and maybe you didn't even think had the kind of value that now it's turned into for the opportunities.
It is really incredible. And the thing I like to spotlight is, and I've said it actually in this interview already, but you never know what's right around the corner. And the reason that I believe it's, you know, divine and God's hand is because there's literally no possible way for me or for anyone that we could have predicted any of that.
Right.
Like it is such a funny story when you think about it, how like depression meets beatboxing meets McDonald's meets all these particular people and the first people that shared the video and saw it. And it was a perfect storm of just random that is unexplainable. And the only thing I can think of is that it was just meant to be, and God designed it that way so that I could um, be shown that there's so much. To me, it felt like he was showing me a glimpse of what life could be if I just keep the course, you know?
Hmm. I love that. And because of the way that we're raised, and it's not just the way that we're raised, but I think the way that the human brain works, we learn lessons that are different than the lessons that people think they're teaching us. And so the lessons that I'm going to say it may not be universal, but the what lessons that I've learned, it sounds like some of the lessons that you've learned have been um, follow the guidelines that, go to college, get a degree, work hard, do something safe and predictable, and maybe you can do this little mouthy beatboxy thing, maybe on the side, maybe you can have a little bit of fun every once in a while. And I love the message that, number one, your natural gifts, skills, talents, abilities have value. And sometimes we don't see how that's even possible. but it,
Right. Like
but
with
they
my
have value.
friend Sean looking at my video. Like
Yeah.
when like when I saw that video, I literally was disgusted. I thought it was the worst video that has been recorded of me. But he saw this with like, no, this is really freaking cool.
Yeah.
Tons of people are gonna like this.
And sometimes because we're so close to the situation, we don't see what other people can see. We don't see the value that other people see. And this is true for beatboxing. It's true for some of the things that I remember my mom telling me, "You're a really good writer." And I thought, yeah, you're supposed to say that. You're my mom. And then it was years later that I realized, oh no, I actually have a talent for this. And so did your belief in your the value of your beatboxing, or the value that you could bring to an event or to a an activity or something like that, did that shift overnight, or was there still kind of a transition process that your belief had to catch up with reality?
I love that. Um, I think in a way, it changed more in a like instantly, like in a belief of just, okay, I'm meant to be here. I can do this. This is what I'm supposed to do. I have confirmation kind of a thing. But it is still something today that I struggle with as far as understanding the value of it. You know, I probably undercharge
Mm-hmm.
for stuff. I probably feel like, there's times where I get invited to a big event and I'm like, they want me there. You know, like I don't know that I'm ever going to get rid of those kind of invasive thoughts and stuff. But so it is a constant struggle, but at least I know that I'm called to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest shift though that happened is I learned that none of this is about me. And
Mm-hmm.
and that in a weird way, this all led to saving some lives in some cases,
Wow.
where I would speak for 30 minutes to an hour and then, go back to a hotel and get one or two DMs that's like, hey, like, you know, I was thinking about doing something drastic and I'm not anymore because of your message. And those kinds of powerful situations are now kind of what fuels me. Like I want to have massive positive impact and I want to speak everywhere and I want my content to get viewed by everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and not because I'm trying to be famous or something, but more because the impact it can have on other people. Um, if it's cool, I'll share
Yeah.
one story that really stands out to me in that realm. But the last 2 years, I've been invited to speak more at dental conferences, and it's so, again, so random, but that career industry has really high rates of mental wellness and
Mm-hmm.
suicide and stuff. And um, so they enjoy having me come speak about those kinds of topics. But I went to a dental conference last year in Orlando, Florida, and I beatboxed and I didn't even share a message. It was just beatboxing with the McDonald's cup at the start of this dental meeting. Um, and as I was walking from the stage to my seat, and my mom was actually there with me at this one, this guy in a really nice suit stood up, and he was tall, really big, kind of intimidating. I thought he was gonna like tackle me or something. But he ran up to me and gave me the biggest hug and was crying.
Hmm.
And he told me that because of me and my podcast, his son is still here
Oh,
today.
wow.
And he said that his son is a listener of my podcast. And I mean, I literally started to tear up. My mom started to tear up.
Yeah.
And it hits me because that might be the only time I've ever had a full circle moment like that,
Hmm.
where it was about my podcast and not my beatboxing. I feel a lot of the time like nobody listens to my podcast.
Hmm.
And so to hear that like someone listened, but also they chose to stay
Yeah.
is incredible. And that's the kind of stuff that fuels me. So to answer your question of what shifted, I think that was a big one for me is it became less about how much climbing I can do and more about who I can reach.
Yeah. Well, and and one of the things that I think is beautiful about that whole arc is number one, a, a lot of people that I work with want to have passion. They're trying to find their purpose in life. And I think that what you described is perfect. That we want purpose because it's something that we're going to enjoy. And certainly beatboxing does that for you. And there are things that do that for me as well. But ultimately, it's not about that. It's about the impact that we can have in somebody else's life. And we, this is my theory, and nobody's been able to prove me wrong. So I'm just going to go with it. But there are things that we're naturally good at, whatever it is. It could be you're good at math, or you're good at beatboxing, or you're good at being a good friend. You're good, whatever it is. And I believe that one of the reasons that each one of us is on this planet is to learn what we're good at and to use it, to do it. And the more we do it, the better we get at it. But the purpose isn't necessarily for us to be good at it. It's not for you to have an amazing reach in your podcast, or uh, a number of people in your audiences you're performing, but it's that one person. It's the person that you impact because you're doing exactly what you were meant to do. And that is to maybe bring it full circle on why I do what I do with this podcast is, if you were working at, pick a place, Ross Dress for Less, or at Kroger grocery store, or at Microsoft, or say, anywhere, you could have an impact, absolutely, but you might have missed out on some of those other opportunities. And so you don't have to have a quote successful, safe job to have the kind of impact in life that I think we all want to have.
I love that. I want to say too, I'm not encouraging people to just jump ship without having any
Right.
thought behind it, but I want to say too that when you do take leaps and when you do pursue that kind of alignment, doors open.
Hmm.
And things happen again that you never knew were right around the corner. And it's in the most random ways that you'll never predict. That I forgot to mention in that story I shared where the guy hugged me, that was a chiropractor at a dental conference.
Wow.
He was only there because his friend was the one putting on the event. And it's like the random things where he was going to be there. It just doesn't make sense. But you know that like everything's just aligning because it's meant to be. But people getting jobs, people getting meeting their, connections that help them unlock opportunities. To your point of all that, things just kind of unfold the way they're supposed to when you seek that kind of alignment. And that's something I'm learning literally as recently as this year,
Mhm.
because I've been that person that's like, what's my purpose? What's my passion? It's all muddy to me.
Right.
And this year I'm just like, I think it's not a destination, it's more just seeking that alignment all the time.
Yeah.
Like the closer you are to your authentic self, the closer you are to God, the more you're in line with what you're called to do.
Yeah. I think that I have so many things that I
I
could say
know
in
we could
response to
jam on
that.
this a lot.
But and yeah, we could be talking for hours. 'Cause we did talk when we talked for your podcast. I think we were on the podcast for a bit, and then we talked for a bit as well.
Another hour after.
So we could absolutely have a long conversation about this, but I believe that I'm a believer in God as well, and I believe that we are divine children of God, and as divine children of God, that means we have divinity in us. We have divine DNA, and if we open ourselves to lean into that, to follow that hereditary nudge, then we will. It may look different than what we assume it's supposed to, or what somebody else thinks that it should. It may look like beatboxing. It may look like a couple of weeks ago we had Carolina on the podcast. It may look like building balloon walls for parties. It may look like with Monica helping women discover their power and voice, or
Or
like
making chocolate cakes for people.
right, making chocolate cakes for people, or it doesn't have to look a specific way. It's going to look the way that it's supposed to look for you, and it's going to be incredible. But if we push that down, if we avoid it, if we ignore it, then I think we're missing out on something that could be amazing. And I think the starting point is just being open to the possibility that maybe there's something more, maybe there's something different, maybe there's something that I could lean into that will have an impact on other people's lives, which, funny how it works, impacts our lives as well. So when you start beatboxing, it started out being for you, turned into for other people, but then comes around full circle and it's for you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And the one thing I'd add on is there's literally like a promise that I feel like I could make because I feel that confident in it for anyone listening. If they were to try to predict how things are going to plan out, I can promise that it's not going to happen that way.
You're going to get it wrong.
It's not going to happen that way. There's going to be things that pop up, good and bad, but a lot of good things too that you are not going to know are happening, or
Right.
that's being set up for you in the background.
Yeah. And it's, and the danger is going back to that Parker, walking into the McDonald's, that Parker could be looking at his life saying, this is not working. And what really is happening in the background is it 100% was working. And it had to play out the way that it did so that the right people would be around you physically and around you from a digital standpoint to put you on a whole new trajectory that has made a significant change in your life.
It's true. And even how things have unfolded since, like, getting those kinds of views for people these days would lead to tens of thousands of sales, or their business would skyrocket, or they'd, now be an artist on the radio, whatever it is for the person. But for me, what happened was it unlocked public speaking
Mm,
and performance, beatboxing performances, and podcasting.
yeah.
Those are the things that came, and it wasn't like money making. It was just like, okay, these are kind of like my next steps,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love it. This has been a blast. And like I said, I could sit here for a couple more hours and just learn from you and Just enjoy your the experiences and the where they've brought you, and it'd be fun to sit and try to predict, knowing that there's no way we could, but what's next? What's next for Parker? So, but if
Right.
people wanted to get to know you a little bit better, if they wanted to find out more about you, what's the best way for them to connect?
Well, my website is parkerkane.co, Parker, Kane.co. And that website is where, they can customize their experience. They can find me on Instagram or whatever from there, or they could listen to the podcast from there,
Cool.
however they want to connect. It all kind of stems from that home base.
Nice. ParkerKane.co. I'll put that in the show notes as well. It has been an absolute blast having this conversation a couple of weeks ago when we did your podcast. And I hope this is not the last time that we have a conversation.
Same here. No, it's always a blast, and I love these kinds of conversations. And I hope that, and I feel like I know because we've got a good set of listeners and stuff. I just hope that the right people hear it and can be inspired to take action.
Yeah. And that's so important, just to take action. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be comfortable. It might feel like going to McDonald's at 11:45 at night, watching a video of you that you didn't expect to see, but
Right.
big
And
things can happen.
like you said, following those nudges.
Yes.
I've unlocked a lot of opportunities just by acting on those random promptings and thoughts that like normally people shove way, way down.
Yeah. Oh, it's so important. So it's been a blast. Thanks so much, Parker. And we will be back next week with, I don't know who, but it's going to be somebody fun. Actually, I've got it all worked out. I just don't know what we're going to talk about quite yet, but we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.
Get back to the work you love, where you face less stress, gain more happiness, and live into your purpose. Let me help you become unstuck and unstoppable so you can finally have the life you want. Head over to my website to connect with me at kenwilliamscoaching.com.